Hi.
Wow.
That was amazing.
Oni, so great to see you.
So great to see you too. And only several days after seeing you in a completely other unexpected but really exciting and interesting New York Fashion Week event. So that was
Well, that's what HIV is all about. That's what HIV science is all about. It pops up in every possible way and place. I'm so happy. I noticed we each have, this was unplanned.
What do
We each have globes behind us.
Oh, yes.
Because this is a global exercise.
It totally is.
And I am so thrilled and I'm just delighted to have had hour 3. I'm going to hand. I wish there were a baton I would hand to you for hour 4.
I'm taking it from you virtually. You can hand it.
And Oni Blackstock, for those who don't know, a pioneering physician, clinician, scientist, policymaker, and leader now of an organization that in and of its name is so important to what we all do, and that is health justice, because that is frankly, the heart of HIV and AIDS. So Dr. Blackstock, Oni, over to you.
Thank you so much, Mitchell. That was so great. And I'll let you go so you can take a break, but just that was such an exciting discussion and just the talk, the sort of global importance of these networks. And I also have to say I was an HPTN scholar, so I was a beneficiary of this amazing network and its contributions. Okay, so we're going to move on. Welcome to hour 4 of the Save AIDS live stream, Save AIDS research live stream. I'm Dr. Oni Blackstock. I'm coming to you from New York City, where it's 2:03 p.m. And I'm thrilled to be your host for the next 2 hours. And we will have a trio of exciting presentations lined up for you this hour related to the topics of vaccine confidence and HIV cure. And our first presenter is Dr. Heidi Larson, who unfortunately can't be with us, but has sent a video of her presentation. Dr. Larson is a professor at the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, as well as the Institute of Health Metrics and Evaluation at the University of Washington. And she will be speaking about the very timely and critically important topic of vaccine confidence, going from clinical trials to delivery. So I'm hoping our backstage team suddenly allows Dr. Larson's presentation to be seen on the screen. Amazing, magical.
Hi, this is Nicholas from the backstage team. So I think what's happening right now, we don't hear the audio. Levi, can you share the video file as such? Was this a screen share? You can nod, I can see you. Was this a screen share that didn't get the audio with it? So if you can do that again by hitting the plus button and say share video, and then find the video file on your hard drive and play it through there. That should get us the audio, I hope.
I'm muted. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Nicholas. We'll let you guys do the things in the back. Renzo, thank you so much. Great to see you too. And Jim Pickett, who will be joining me for next hour for a really exciting discussion on HIV/AIDS research advocacy. I'm wondering, Nicholas, do we want to just wait, or do we want to show a testimonial video? Is it hard to check on the audio and show the video at the same time?
Yeah. Why don't we play a? Oh no, I see now. We can try again.
Okay,
I see there's something powered up. I'll pull it to the stage and see what happens.
Good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the world you are watching this important forum on 24 hours to save AIDS research. Well, I'm going to quickly talk in my short presentation on vaccine confidence from trials to delivery. My work is about trust. And I just wanted to do a refresh. This was from the Munich International AIDS Conference. I was one of the lucky ones to be paired with an artist who, after interviewing me over a number of hours about my work, came back with this conceptualization on trust with his handmade paper and the roots of trust. But he also developed this fascinating neon light. Can I distrust you, with the disc going on and off, on and off. And to me, it captured the volatility of trust and confidence and how quickly it's changing, and how we have an environment of trust switching between different sources of credible and not. 10 years ago, we launched a vaccine confidence index in the Vaccine Confidence Project, which I founded actually 15 years ago, to monitor and measure what I saw as a trend in questioning around vaccines globally. We did our first major 70 country study that was looking at what is vaccine confidence according to safety, perceived effectiveness, perceived importance. And what we found was that actually Europe was the most skeptical country in the world, interestingly. I mean, not country, region, with France being the most skeptical. But I think that if the US was disaggregated by states, we would probably see a similar pattern. Um, we've been following this over the years. And on the left side here, you've got November 2015, and the right side, November 2018. That's just 3 years. But already, if you see the most skeptical is the dark red, and the most confident is dark blue. But you can see in the top line that Africa, which is largely bluish, more positive, even in 3 years, started to become increasingly yellow and less confident. And interestingly, it was the Francophone countries influenced by the French media. The more we've looked at confidence in vaccines, which is highly relevant to HIV, along with other interventions, we've increasingly understood that it's not really about the vaccine a lot of the times. When people have questions and distrust, sometimes it's the product, sometimes it's the provider, sometimes it's the political system that's around it. Sometimes there's generalized distrust in certain marginalized populations, and sometimes historic and even things that weren't specific to health in a different aspect of the government's sense of betrayal. They really would play that out by refusing a vaccine. So that was really a big. One of the things we found was since we had a lot of background data, we've also been seeing trends that have changed in the context of COVID. Out of 55 countries where we had data before COVID, and also after in 2022, 2023, I should say post-pandemic, we still have COVID. 53 out of the 55 countries had a not insignificant drop, had a significant drop in confidence in even childhood vaccines, which was very concerning. What was even more concerning, and is more concerning, is that when we looked at, what were the characteristics of the drop in confidence over the last 5 years? And it's been particularly driven by 18 to 34-year-olds. When we look back to 2018, the confidence, and this is just the example of confidence in MMR vaccine, which isn't even a COVID vaccine, so that it played out across different vaccines. Um, and it just really was that 18 to 34-year-old potential parents, people in relationships, starting their adult lives. Those were the most hesitant, which is a real. We've looked at these trends since COVID because we were wondering, was this an immediate COVID effect, and will people bounce back in their confidence or not? And of all the regions, Africa was the region which is slowly coming back with their confidence. On the far left side is 2014, then 2018, 2020, 2022, and 2024. It is coming back, but it's still not what it was at the beginning of uh, in Europe, of all the different regions, has the least bouncing back. In fact, it's continued to decline in confidence, and that again is a big concern that we really need to pay attention to in our work and confidence building moving forward, particularly as we anticipate new vaccines for HIV and other related interventions. One of the things I launched at the beginning of COVID was expanding beyond vaccines to look at a broader mix of how what we learned about vaccines played out around a mix of measures that were required during COVID: masking, distancing, vaccines, of course, and just that overall environment of what did it take to get people to cooperate and what were their experiences during COVID, because there was a lot of attention to supply, to surveillance, to the number of people getting vaccinated, but what was their actual experience of the overall control measures? And that we called the Global Listening Project. We did interviewing with over 70,000 people across 70 countries. We did extensive focus groups just to say with open-ended questions initially to get a sense of what people experienced, and then with a large-scale surveys, tell us what you went through, tell us what mattered. And I think relevant to the discussion today and what we're talking about is never underestimate what's in the minds of people and also that it can change. One of the big surprises, and I suppose it shouldn't have been as big as it's felt, is that when we went to Abuja, Delhi, New York, Paris, Sao Paulo, and Bangkok, and had open ended focus groups, just tell us what you went through. Tell us, for instance, what was the biggest thing that concerned you at the peak of COVID in your setting? And what did we hear in Abuja? Food insecurity, food insecurity. In Delhi, it was a lot of jobs are cash based. And when the hard lockdown came, are we going to have enough money to buy food for the next day? In New York, everyone talked about mental health and stress and all those challenges. Paris talked about loneliness and frustration and the burden of the domestic stresses. Sao Paulo talked about strained relationships, domestic stresses, separations. Bangkok talked about they were very worried about particularly young people and lack of socializing. What really struck me was that none of them said that their biggest worry was COVID. We really need to understand the contextual factors. What else matters to people? Because if we're going to build trust and start a conversation where we want to talk about introducing a new vaccine or new intervention for HIV, we better understand where people are at and what matters to them. And within that, bring in the conversation about what we want to talk to them about. Um, Out of the data that we collected for the Global Listening Project in all these 70 countries, one of the things that's always concerned me is that we would tend to ask trust questions or in the research about trust in scientists or trust in healthcare providers. But what I increasingly saw is if we don't understand who else people trust, we're not going to get the picture. We shouldn't be surprised that people might trust scientists a lot, but then they decide not to take a vaccine or accept a therapeutic or treatment because after they talk to the doctor or listen to the scientists on the radio or read about it in the TV, on the news or hear it in the TV, then they turn to their family, they turn to their friends, they turn to in Africa, we saw the power of religious leaders in influencing. And without layering them, the red bar here is scientists, the dark blue is family and friends, and then community leaders and religious leaders. So we came out of this saying, actually, scientists do have a lot of trust. That's not the problem. It's the loss of influence relative to other things and people that are trusted. We did this, as I said, for many countries, and I just put in the bigger numbers of who people trusted most. In Argentina, it was scientists, but it was very closely followed by family and friends. In Brazil, it was family was above scientists. Colombia, family was just a notch above scientists. Indonesia, family and friends were above science. Malaysia, family and family doctor. Um, Philippines, again, family and family doctor. So family doctor also ranked high with family and friends. Again, just reiterating the importance of recognizing that just because you did a survey and heard one thing, don't think it's going to stay the same for very long. It's a highly volatile, trust-switching environment. We need vigilance. We need to continue to listen if we're going to make sure that we're understood and we're really meeting people where they are. There's a great short article, but really moving that I've referred to a lot. Daniel Offrey, a writer and physician, talked about the emotional epidemiology of the H1N1 vaccine. When we first heard that, we thought that was the big one. She said, all my patients were saying, where's the vaccine? Where's the vaccine? By the time the vaccine got there and the threat seemed to wane, they're like, I don't want that vaccine. So we need to pay attention to context as well as timing of interventions. Um, we are increasingly disaggregating by gender, age. I think we need to pay more attention to differences in age, and then also just the range of social networks. A big thing we found, we do a lot with introducing new vaccines, social approval. In a 10-country study, we found above all, more than science, more than information, social approval of a new dengue vaccine was going to be the biggest lever. So what do my neighbors think? What does the community think? We looked at huge variety by country. I'm just running out of time here. Also, anticipating a new TB vaccine. This was in the context of a bigger Indonesia study, a deep dive in Jakarta with 3,600 people. 21% said that they would definitely not take a new TB vaccine. Well, those are the kinds of things when we get the big data and we see that, we start the deep dives and start doing qualitative research. I need to end here. I want to make sure that everyone has the time they need. I'll just end with just looking at the breadth of mRNA vaccines, because that's a huge platform moving forward. Thanks so much.
Great. Not sure if people can hear me. Okay, big thank you to Dr. Larson, who brought up such vitally important issues, because we learned about all of these amazing advances in the last conversation, through the Prevention Trials Network, ACTG, but none of these advances will work if people do not trust them. And so Dr. Larson spoke to this really vital role of cultivating trustworthiness, as we actually go about doing this research. And actually I'm sure the next speaker will be talking about this. And I agree, Lorenzo Williams wrote in the chat, the government is not high on trust, right? And so it's like, all of that translates. If people aren't being treated well by their government, they're going to question, okay, why am I getting this free vaccine from the government? Is this something I can trust? So much of this is about our society, about relationships, about community, and also just getting to know our neighbors too. I agree, Jenna. It's unfortunate that Dr. Larson wasn't here, because that was a great talk, chock full of information. I'm going to give a quick call to action. Don't forget to go over to our website if you're watching at saveaidsresearch.org. make sure you make your voice heard. Really, we want to emphasize the importance of continued federal investment in HIV/AIDS research. And you can help by calling the Congressional Switchboard today. The number is on the website, and you can find more contact. And it's on, and 5 calls actually makes it super easy. You can use that website or app as well. Okay, so we're transitioning now from vaccine confidence, from clinical trials to delivery, to social, behavioral, and ethical considerations for HIV cure research. And the through line, I think, for both of those is about trust, earning trust, and preventing harm. So our next presenter is Dr. Ahmed, Ali Ahmed, who's joining us from the West Coast, from the Division of Infectious Disease and Global Public Health at the School of Medicine at UC San Diego. And thank you, Dr. Ahmed, for joining us.
You're welcome. Thanks for the great introduction. Thanks, Sonia.
Okay, I'll let you take it over.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good evening. Okay, so we are doing a lot of social behavior research at UCSD. Maybe a lot of you are familiar with the last study that we are doing in UCSD. So let me first introduce what kind of studies we are doing and how federal funding might be helping us. So okay, next slide. Okay, can anyone help me? Next slide.
Dr. Ahmed, are you controlling the slides, or do we have the slides?
I can control myself.
Okay, I think you need to put it into slideshow. It's not in slideshow.
Okay, just a moment.
Like, just hit that little icon at the lower right-hand part of the screen, or you can go to slideshow in the menu.
Actually, I can't find any way like to how to do like.
Wait, Dr. Ahmed, so just go down to the lower right-hand side of your screen. Yep, and keep on going to go to the right. Right, and yeah, and there's going to be there's a little screen that's the last icon in that row of screens. Just try clicking that. Okay, I think we're.
I guess you can control as well. No worries.
Okay. Well, why don't you just go and share with us your talk in the way that is most comfortable for you.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you. There's a lot of background noise, but we can hear you. Just lean into your mic.
Okay, I am near to my mic. So can you control my slides? You can just click on slide and then I will say.
Backstage, do we have Dr. Ahmed's slides?
Hi again. No, we don't have the slides in our system. So, Dr. Ahmed, you need to bring your PowerPoint into full screen mode, and then you can control your slides yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, so I can just stop share and again share.
No, you're sharing the slides. Just go up to the menu at the top, of your screen, the PowerPoint menu. Yes, okay. And you'll see slideshow. Yes, go there.
Okay.
And then just click from beginning.
Okay, so you can see the full?
No, you need to click from beginning.
Okay.
Click that. Yep, click it.
Okay.
Okay, I don't know what's clicking. It seems to be clicking.
Yeah, I have clicked on the beginning. Okay. Can you see me?
Okay, it's okay. Maybe if you have your own, that's fine. Maybe just talk to us. Just talk to us about the work that you're doing. It's okay if it's not exactly.
Yeah, and you can just click on the slides with the little thumbnails on the left-hand side. Now you're on slide number 2. And if you need to move on, just click on the thumbnail for slide number 3.
Okay, now I am getting. Yeah, I got it. No problem now. Thank you. Okay, so let me introduce this our long-term survivor study that we did in US, and we for this study we enrolled people those who have HIV diagnosed before the availability of long-acting antiretroviral therapy, that is probably in 1996, and those who have age 65 or plus. So we try to assess their different priorities, different policy needs, and their perception related to HIV cure research, what they think about this. And so for this study, we recruited a very diverse kind of sample size across the US. We did special emphasis on the diversity, on equal male and female, and then we tried to recruit different race person like blacks, other mixed races, and we recruited sample from different US regions, like we stressed on the south side and west and northeast. So let's first discuss the perception. So there were total 32 participants, and what they think about the current HIV cure research, what they think about, what they have the different perceptions. So they are very well motivated to be the part of ongoing HIV cure research, and they want to give back to the community, be the participant, and they are inspired by the legacy and their personal experience. However, they are very frustrated with the age cutoffs that being put on the that mostly they exclude 65 years or plus. So they called for the inclusion based on health status, and they are also willing to accept the risk related to ATI analytical treatment interruptions, and they want to take this risk if the trial team like explain them the uh, solve their concerns related to partner safety and other ART related things. So, and they also prefer the autonomy in such kind of decisions. So, when we discuss about their perception related to different strategies that being currently are in clinical trials, like latency reversing agents, so they have some concerns about latency reversing agents. They want to be part of these trials, and but they have concerns about the reactivating of virus with unclear safety. Then, when discussing the block and log strategies, they have interest. They shown a lot of interest, but they have some concern about the uncertainty about the duration of blocks. So, same like cell and gene therapy, they have some cautious optimism, but they are worried about the invasiveness of cell and gene therapies. Likewise, immune-based approaches, participants liked it very much. It they think these trials like they will improve their natural body defense. Likewise, combination approaches, they easily understood these because they combination approaches, they think like that they are just like combination antiretroviral therapy. So apart from the biology of different these cure strategies, they also stress that they want to be the part of ongoing cure research, but the trial team should consider the flexibility during trials, consider their travel time and stigma related concerns. And they also stress that the trial team should be diverse, like all kind of people, blacks, white, any kind. So when we discuss their current priorities, when we ask the current priorities, so they stressed on the urgent need for integrated care because they are very old and they are mostly have some comorbid conditions ongoing. So they want that uh, uh, they should be seen by some geriatric expert, like one stop shop solution. So they could discuss their every kind of comorbid condition with them, and because they are very aged, so they have endured a long ART and side effects. So they want a safer ARTs due to their ailing health, tailored to their needs with the age. Apart from this, they want to be part of research, ongoing research, and they advocate for LTS specific trials that weigh risk of ATI and aging related vulnerability. So another things that they stress that because many participants reported a survivor guilt, depression, unresolved trauma, and they prefer that the healthcare setting should have a trauma-informed counseling, peer-led support networks to manage them, and these facilities should be available in rural and far areas as well. And another issue that we found, they want a stability. They want, like, they stressed a lot on social things like food insecure, food related concerns, unstable housing. So they want a stable housing, economic support, and paid peer roles in the HIV cure research. And another thing they stress that their quality of life like should be free from another burden. Like clinical trials they can be the part, but it shouldn't burden their normal routines. So the what kind of policies they are looking? So there are two kind of policies at the current. What we need pre-cure era, and next we will discuss what they want when the cure is available in near future, hopefully. So at the moment, they are very worried about the fragmented Medicare and Medicaid system ongoing in the US. So they think that often these systems like exclude their dental, vision, and mental health related problems. They have to pay high co-payments, and they want an integrated care model. And they want a housing security, and they want to expand the right program more. And they also there is some concern about the need to have more anti-stigma trainings to the healthcare professionals so they could get better treatment. So when we discuss, we also ask them about what they want in case cure is available. Hopefully, we will achieve that. And for that, they say the first they fear that losing of housing and disability health care that they are assessing right now that they have. So they want a transitional policies before the loss of these benefits. So next they say that if the cure is available, it should be affordable and available to everyone, older, marginalized, and low income LTS as well. And moreover, their concern is that the cure research should involve them, and this cure research should be ethical and inclusive. And if they are cured, even if the follow up, the long term follow up plan should be in place if they have some late late years, any side effects or anything. So they want, moreover, they also stressed on the structural policies related to jobs and uh, uh, training, and they don't want the benefit cliffs that they currently accessing. They're afraid that after having cure, they might lose all these benefits that they have at the moment. So overall conclusion from all these three. So the LTS long-term survivors are very resilient. They are frustrated with the age-based inclusions in clinical trials. They want to contribute through ethical, informed, inclusive research. So what they need at the moment, they want integrated care comprised of geriatrics. They want safer antiretrovirals. They want embedded mental health, housing, and food security at in this age, and they want expanded community building. So what they need of before and after, they have already, like they stressed on the cure should be available to everyone. It should be like to the areas that don't have. So the path forward is that the LTS should be in the center of HIV policy and research. So the cure science shouldn't like left over any vulnerable populations. So recommendations for the researchers are to embed the socio-behavior research in all clinical trial phases, ensure cultural competence and diverse representation in research teams. For policymakers, recommendations are like safeguard continuity of benefits in post-cure era and tailor healthcare and support programs for aging long-term survivors. For community, For community engagement, build trust through transparency and peer navigator involvement. Develop outreach strategies addressing stigma, logistic, and inclusivity. So let's discuss a brief overview about the end of life social behavior research that we are carrying in UCSD. And for this study, we also recruited subset of long-term survivors and assess uh, their motivations, their perceptions about to be part of end of life research. So for this study, we recruited 16 long-term survivors, and we also stressed on the diversity of the sample size and recruited those who can speak, those who have some experience related to HIV advocacy to have more discussion. So what are general perceptions of end of life research? So mostly participants, they many of them are aware with the lost gift study, but the others don't know. So others are like have a less knowledge, so they stress on the need for clear messaging, and they are mostly long-term survivors are highly motivated. So they have expressed their desire for dignity, meaning, and connections at end of life research, and they're wanting to contribute in unique biospecimens to advance HIV cure science. They are willing to accept the different procedures that are done in end of life research, like blood draws, invasive biopsies, tissue retrieval, leukapheresis. So the key takeaway is, is that broad sport. We have a broad sport for end of life research, but sustained education is needed to address the misconception to continue this end of life studies. Moreover, they also stressed on the community ambassadors and ongoing community engagements. They want transparent communication for end of life research. Like they want tangible support, travel stipend, caregiver stipend, cremation, and clear timelines for return of remains. So the top barriers, we also found that they have some fear, discomfort of unknown family preferences, bereavement. There are a lot of cultural and religious beliefs at the end of life. You know, every religion has a different way. So they have some medical mistress and stigma related concerns, and their family inputs also matter a lot to them. So, so policy point of views so they stress that the research should be expanded, not in just in the UCSD. It should be expanded to the other universities or other settings, and they want to integrate this end of life studies with the hospice and palliative care teams. And the key takeaway is that community driven model that is logistic ready is essential to expand uh, to continue the studies. So
Dr. Ahmed, I'm so sorry. We're going to have to stop you here, but just to say, we wish we had hours to hear from
yeah,
you. This is such a rich and just really powerful presentation that you did, centering the voices of longtime survivors and showing how people are motivated and want to be part of this HIV cure research, are
yeah,
discouraged at some of the age cutoffs, and talked about what they needed to feel supported, and then if there was a cure, you know, what their concerns would be. So this is, I think there were so many comments in that you made that were highlighted. I know Dr. Gonzalez, but put long-term survivors at the center of HIV policy and research. So so many wonderful, powerful messages, and I wish we had time for questions, but people can still put comments and things like that in the chat. And I'm sure Dr. Ahmed, if you're able to stay on, you can sort of see what the community is saying.
yeah. So I can end with the way forward, like just like the social behavior and ethic research is very crucial, but these ongoing retrenchments have paused or ended our projects that are in the pipeline, and protecting social behavior research is essential for the ethical care research engagement, risk appraisal, equity, and implementation. So we are all very thankful to our community partners, uh, research staff. So it's all over to you.
Okay.
Thank you.
you to you, your team, and all of the participants who shared their perspectives. That was excellent. So but right now, what we're going to do is, as you know, we've been collecting personal testimonial videos from people who wanted to share why they support funding for HIV/AIDS science and research. And so let's take a moment to share another video that we received from one of our fearless leaders, one of the founders of Defend Public Health and Save AIDS Research, who's also a renowned epidemiologist and global health advocate, Dr. Greg Gonzalez.
Hi, my name is Greg Gonzalez. I'm an AIDS researcher at the Yale University School of Public Health. More importantly, I'm somebody who's been living with AIDS since 1995 at least. I'm alive today because of antiretroviral therapy that has given me a new lease on life. I'm living proof that AIDS research has changed the world for the better. Come join us. Help us save AIDS research, which is under assault right now from an administration and a Congress which wants to cut funding for biomedical research and foreclose on advances that saved my life and the lives of millions of others. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gonzalez, for those powerful words. So right now we are going to transition. So Dr. Ahmed was talking about social, behavioral, and ethical considerations of HIV cure research, and that's kind of our compass. And now we are moving to Dr. Katie Barr, who's associate professor at the University of Pennsylvania, Penn Center for AIDS Research, who will be sort of charting where the science is moving next in terms of HIV cure. I'm going to pass it over to you, Dr. Barr. How are you today?
I'm great. Thank you so much. It is such an honor and a privilege to be here with you, Dr. Blackstock, and to follow Dr. Gonzalez. And it's just wonderful to be here. I'm very excited. Thank you for the opportunity. So my goal today is to just give a tiny taste about some of the advances in HIV cure research. And hopefully folks will be excited about what the science of HIV cure research is right now. And it will be inspiring for us to figure out all we can do to keep HIV science going. So I'm going to start by apologize for the slightly altered picture here, but I think it's appropriate to ask, why should we pursue HIV cure? We know that antiretroviral therapy is truly a modern scientific miracle, and with early diagnosis and continued treatment, people with HIV live long, healthy lives. So why should we pursue cure? Well, there is stigma, there's cost, there are problems with access, there are some toxicities with our currently available therapies, and we require adherence for a person's entire life. And most importantly, the community of people with HIV really support the science and the research and the pursuit of an HIV cure. And so that's essentially why we continue to work for an HIV cure. So if we think about antiretroviral therapy, and what I'm showing here is a graph with the viral load showing sort of a schema of viral load over time. We know we have high viral loads during primary HIV. We settle into a set point. And when people start on antiretroviral therapy, shown by that gray box, we know virus is suppressed quickly. And this returns people to health, and it leads to excellent health. However, if we stop therapy, we know that virus can rebound. And this rebound viremia reveals the presence of persistent virus reservoirs. And this rebound and these persistent virus reservoirs are essentially the barrier to HIV cure. And so what we want to try to pursue is art-free virus control as a version of cure. And so we can do this via two central approaches. One is reservoir clearance, where we're trying to chip away at the number of HIV-infected cells. And we can do this through a range of strategies: immunotherapy, cell and gene therapies, latency reversal, shock and kill, or block and lock strategies. We can also try to encourage virus suppression, not necessarily working on the reservoir, but trying to keep virus under control without antiretroviral therapy. And we can approach this via several different strategies also: immunotherapy, cell and gene therapies, vaccines, lots of different approaches. And today, what I'm hoping to review are some of the recent sort of concepts behind immunotherapy and clinical trials that have shown benefit. So if we think about advances in HIV cure via immunotherapy, there's three concepts that I want to talk about. And these are not strategies that are exclusive. They are overlapping, or potentially we can choose from these different approaches, but I think together they give a sense of some of the ways we can get closer to cure. So these concepts are early antiretroviral therapy, interventions that start at the time that we begin antiretroviral therapy, and broadly neutralizing antibodies. And then I'm going to show results from 2 clinical trials that have used these collection of therapies. So thinking about early antiretroviral therapy. So there have been case reports over the past 10 to 20 years of individuals who started antiretroviral therapy very early after HIV diagnosis. So on the left, we're showing an example of a participant from San Francisco who actually wanted to start PrEP, but was actually recently acquired HIV, and so quickly transitioned from PrEP to early antiretroviral therapy. And they maintained suppression on ART for a long, long time. They engaged with their research team and did an extensive reservoir testing approach and were unable to find any evidence of residual virus, and then underwent a treatment interruption and maintained virus suppression for almost a year before virus came back. So again, evidence of really reducing the reservoir with early ART, but not completely eradicating it. Similarly, we know about the story of the Mississippi baby or the Mississippi child who started antiretroviral therapy very shortly after perinatal transmission, maintained suppression for a period of time, then went off therapy, and off therapy maintained virus suppression for more than 2 years before virus came back. So again, these examples of early antiretroviral therapy allow us to understand that we can really reduce the reservoir, but not completely prevent reservoir seeding or get all the way to a cure with early antiretrovirals. So I want to also show a clinical trial that used early antiretroviral therapy in 2 different cohorts. One cohort of women in Southern Africa and one cohort of men who have sex with men in Western Europe. And essentially, this Spartak study then did a sub-study looking at these individuals with early antiretroviral therapy and what would happen after a treatment interruption. And what is really notable about this study is that when we're looking at the Kaplan-Meier curve on the right, which is showing the African women cohort on top and the Western men who have sex with men cohort on the bottom here, and we're looking at the time to viral rebound. What is notable is that these African women experienced a really different clinical outcome. In fact, 23%, or almost a quarter of these individuals, maintained virus suppression for more than 2 years of follow-up after this treatment interruption, whereas all of the men who had sex with men who interrupted therapy ultimately rebounded in a relatively short period of time. And I think this highlights 2 really critical features. First of all, it's critical to study diverse populations. Looking at women in Africa, we found a very different outcome than studying men in Western Europe. Therefore, we need to understand how similar approaches will act differently across our global pandemic in different populations, and men and women, different viruses, etc. But also the impact of early ART in these individuals was really substantial, and that a large number of these people experienced post-ART virus control for many, many months just with early antiretroviral therapy. Okay, what about interventions at the time that people start antiretroviral therapy? So I want to talk about one study that is emblematic of many others, but this was a study performed in South Africa by the Caprisa cohort, led by Melissa Abrahams, is the first author. And what they did was they followed a cohort of women called the Caprisa cohort who were identified in acute and early infection, followed for years off antiretroviral therapy, as was the guidance at the time for the country, started on antiretroviral therapy, suppressed for a number of years, and then had virus sampled from the reservoir. And what the investigators did was sequence virus over the course of viral replication over many years and compare that to the reservoir virus. The reservoir virus is shown here in this sort of spiral phylogenetic tree, starting at transmission and going through the later parts of viremia. And The reservoir viruses all aligned with these viruses that were found at the time of ART initiation. And this suggests that the reservoir is actually formed by viruses that are replicating at this late time as opposed to earlier time. So what does that mean? This suggests that actually starting antiretroviral therapy creates a more calm immune environment that allows the formation of this long-lived reservoir. And so as ART returns us to health, it also stabilizes immune responses, more frequently allowing survival of memory CD4 T cells, and it also allows proliferation of CD4 T cells, some of which may be infected. And this, in theory, allows the reservoir to be created at this time. And thus, interventions to block the reservoir formation may be particularly powerful at this clinical juncture. And so one more intervention that we use a lot in cure are broadly neutralizing antibodies. And the reason we use these specific antibodies or antivirals in cure research is because they have a range of functions. So we know bNAbs are safe, they're long-acting with their antiviral activity, but they can also chip away at the reservoir because via their Fc function, they can identify virus-infected cells and help clear them via immune mechanisms. And because they're active components of the immune system, they can also help boost HIV-specific immune responses. And so I'm just going to quickly review the results of 2 clinical trials that use these 3 options. So the first is the E-Clear trial. This was published about 2 years ago. It was a study conducted out of Denmark by Ole Søgaard and his team. And they asked individuals who were starting antiretroviral therapy either during acute or chronic infection to add a bNAb or another agent to their antiretroviral therapy, and then they followed them. And their hypothesis was this intervention of bNAb at the time of ART initiation could limit the formation of the reservoir and enhance immune responses. And what they showed, in fact, was their hypothesis was correct. The participants who took a bNAb with their ART had a faster decline in their virus and their viral reservoir. They showed greater HIV-specific CD8 T cell or immune responses. And for those who agreed, it was voluntary, but agreed to undergo a treatment interruption, we showed that they showed that the individuals shown with the blue lines here who had bNAbs that were potent against their virus had a more delayed and sort of blunted viral rebound, and in fact were able to stay off antiretrovirals for many months. So there's another study that also looked at bNAbs at the time of ART initiation, these broadly neutralizing antibodies, and this is the Rio study, which is ongoing, but preliminary results were presented by Sarah Fidler at Croy. And so this study has 2 parts. At the first part, 72 participants will either get bNAbs plus antiretroviral therapy or just antiretroviral therapy. But uniquely, individuals who get placebo at the original part later on have the opportunity to get bNAbs later in the clinical trial. But the results from this first presentation or this first component were presented at Croy, and they're exciting. So what they showed was that individuals who got bNAbs at the time that they started antiretroviral therapy had delayed rebound. And so here's the Kaplan-Meier curve showing placebo in red and bNAb recipients in blue. And we can see that in blue, individuals had a much longer time before many of them rebounded. And what we can see is at week 20, 75% of these bNAb recipients had not rebounded. And that likely represents the continued antiviral activity of the bNAb. But by week 72, which is a year and a half after that initial bNAb receipt, many of those individuals, 40%, maintain virus suppression. And this likely represents a post-bNAb effect, which is really exciting and suggests a durable immune response. Again, if you look at the virus rebound at treatment interruption, 8 of these bNAb recipients, more than a quarter of the bNAb recipients, have very low level virus rebound and evidence of post-bNAb virus control. That's very exciting. Okay, so finally, to take away what I think is exciting about HIV cure research and these few immunotherapy studies that I was able to highlight is that we think that these approaches to both augment reservoir reduction and boost immune control have the potential to lead to post-BNAB or post-ART control in a good proportion. And this is a great foundation to build on with future research. I think these promising recent clinical trials show like this first step of ART-free virus control, and it's great news and things we can build on. Now, this is just a tiny look into some HIV cure research, and there are many other promising cure studies. And so there's hopefully a lot of great reason to call your representatives and senators and ask us to keep funding HIV cure research. And so I would like to say thank you to all the participants of these studies, the studies teams and investigators who conducted this research, and of course, the NIH and our other funders whom we require in order to continue to do this exciting work. That's all. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Barr, for showing us like what the possibilities are, and also for just giving us more hope and driving home. And driving home why funding this research is so critical. We have time for actually some questions, one or two questions. So I don't know if folks would like to want to take some questions from our viewers. Great, I see Katrine Myers. Lots of great questions. People saying, Dr. Barr, that your presentation is in a format that they can understand. So thank you, and that they're learning a lot. A question from Moses Supercharger: What new advances, I guess, are there in measuring the reservoirs?
Oh, thank you, Moses Supercharger. Lovely to see your name on the screen. And I actually had a whole section about how advances in measuring the reservoir have really advanced HIV cure research recently, but I obviously can't speak quickly enough to be able to include that. But I do think we have made a lot of progress in the field in developing high throughput and sort of high tech ways of understanding whether proviruses, so the virus integrated into a cell, are really capable of reactivating, and so are these intact or replication competent viruses. And so with these with these new high throughput and highly advanced techniques, we have recently even had more of a sense that the immune system at baseline is slowly chipping away at the reservoir. And this gives us a great sort of a template for what we can build on with cure strategies. So as we learn how the immune system naturally attacks the virus, shrinks the reservoir, controls virus-infected cells, we can build on that with new cure strategies.
Okay, that was excellent. I don't know, you make this topic so interesting. So thank you. Thank you. Any other questions from our audience for Dr. Barr? If not, I know we're almost at the top of the hour. So again, heed Dr. Barr's call to action. Was Satish Pillai saying, fantastic overview. Any hypotheses on why there are incredibly divergent responses observed in the Spartak cohort?
Thank you, Satish. Yes. So I think that there's probably the number one reason is that the immune system in men and women are quite different. And it's really an understudied area. Learn if we do a better job of enrolling women in our, not just HIV cure studies, but research across the board. But certainly when we think about the immune system and how women at all life stages, premenopausal, during pregnancy, postmenopausal, all of these particular life stages, their immune system acts differently and is potentially more effective or slightly different in how it controls HIV. And so I think that's probably the main reason between those two cohorts. But there's a lot of other confounding differences. So the virus clades that are part of the epidemic in Southern Africa compared to Europe are different. The socioeconomic conditions are quite different. Co-infections are quite different. There's many, many things that need to be teased apart with more sort of thoughtful enrollment and diverse populations in our studies.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Barr. I know now I'm seeing more folks are putting comments in the chat, but we are unfortunately at time, but maybe Dr. Barr might stay around and is able to answer those. Okay, great. So Dr. Barr, thanks again. And thank you again to our viewers. We are starting hour 5 of the Save AIDS Research live stream.